Okay, all started. You may have gotten too noticed on this conference because I made a mistake earlier. After I start the first one, I accidentally closed the tab on the recording. So I have to kill that session and restart a new one about 5 minutes ago. So you may get a second notice for this particular conference. I apologize for that. So far, I have not seen anyone joining. Maybe that's one of the reasons. Sometimes Shane does join, but he may get a late notice. Okay, anyway, we're going to start recording since it's time. Since no one is online, I have to make sure the camera and then the microphone are working, and they are. And the recording is still good, so we are good to go. Okay. Today we'll go to full screen mode completely because we are not going to have presentation slides. So let's go to full screen mode, and then we'll look at our schedule and the assignments and what we're going to do today and the next couple weeks, since the semester is ending in 2 weeks. Okay, let's start full screen. Starting. Okay, full screen mode seems to be working. Okay, good. And we are recording. It's good. Let's look at our calendar. Before we do, make sure after full screen mode we are still working. That's good. So everything is good. First, look at our schedule. We are on here, so you do have assignment due today. Is the temperature calculation or conversion. We worked on that last lecture, the recorded lecture last time. I hope you reviewed it. The second half of that lecture, I went through the temperature conversion, the basic requirement, and what we're looking for and how we can do that. So I think only one person submitted so far, but of course we have until the end of the day for you to submit that before it's late. Just to remind you, when you're late, I will take out some late penalty. And just look at the announcement page. I think the second announcement I have posted, we have the policy there. Okay, make sure you meet our schedule. Particularly, we have only two weeks left before the semester end, so it is important for you to catch up on the work and to submit your assignment on time, so that we can complete the semester on time. Today, we will spend the second half, maybe 1/3 of today's time at the end, to talk about the day and time website that's on the assignment. Okay, so we'll spend some time on that today, and which is due this Sunday. Okay. Let me see. And then you only have a couple more assignments, a couple more at the end. There will be no final exams. Okay, just the final project basically at the end. Okay, so please watch your schedule and make sure you comply to those deadlines. Okay, let's begin. The module. We are at this point looking at forms, events, and some dynamic content. That's the purpose of JavaScript. So we are looking at that the next couple weeks. And today we will look at the forms and how to access to data on the form and modify them. Also, we'll look at regular expressions. Some of you, I think Shane already know how to do that because I do see him use that in some of his assignment. So we'll talk a little bit about it. And then the next week we'll talk about event module and DOMs events. Okay. And that's our schedule. Okay, make sure everything's still working. Good. So, first thing first, we will look at our reading. For this particular session, we are looking at chapter 6, and which is on the forms and how to access forms through JavaScript. And chapter 8 is for events. Okay, so basically that's for next week. Okay, that's what we're looking at. We do not have any presentation slides for the next couple of weeks. We are going to look into more live session on the internet, some of the websites, some of the information provided on website tutorials, and then we'll go through them, and I'll go through some explanation on some of the features related to the chapters that we have. Of course, you can always, you should read your book and to have a better understanding of the materials that we are presenting. And we'll look at some of the website information and get more detail and some live session and working examples to show those features. Okay, that's our plan. So please make sure you read chapter 6 first, and then if you can read ahead chapter 8, which is going to be used for next week, that would be good. Those are the page number. For us, we will look at those first. The reason is this is chapter 6, form handling. So those are the topics for the book. How to navigate, okay, how to change the menu dynamically. Okay, all these topics are included for this. We are more interested at this point looking at how to access the data, okay, and putting validation like zip code, email addresses. The book gives you pretty good, I would say, step-by-step explanation of what they are doing, what they mean by each of the topic. So you should read the book and follow the examples they have. Like in this case, it starts with a pull down, okay, and then they have the source code on the pull down, and also the JavaScript, how to initialize it and then get the elements. So there are a lot to learn. We may not go through some of them, but it will be good for you to go over those. And they do have explanation step by step on why they do that. Like this, we already talked about the onload, and also why we have to do it on unload, the purpose of it. So they do have a good explanation. And also how we get to the data by getting the element by ID, identify them. So we have used that many times. You can also use indexing. Okay. So please try to understand how, and they do have explanation on each of the features. Also talk about the action. We are not going to do much or do anything with the action on the form. As you know, when you do a submit button, you hit the submit, then the action will go to the server, okay, the CGI, the Common Gateway Interface software on the server side to handle whatever the data submit to it. Okay, we are not working on server side. We won't talk about it. Okay, but when you see that, that's, you know what that is. Okay. So they do have step by step. However, I do notice that they have talked more than you need to know for now. Okay, you don't really need to know everything they talk about in those examples, but it's nice to understand them at least. You may not need to use those features, but it's nice to understand what they're trying to accomplish going through this example step by step. Okay, so how to manipulate the data on the menu and get the data and modify them as needed. Okay, more so we need to learn here is to validate your input data. Okay, so that's what we are focusing on today, on validate the form data. Okay, so we'll go through external example on how to do that and what option you have, how to find the data on the DOM and see whether they are valid data as you expected. Okay, that's the purpose of these two chapters, at least this chapter. Now, however, there is a chapter 7 that was not in your reading assignment, but I would suggest you do that. The reason is we are going to talk about regular expression. Okay, we'll cover that today also, but the regular expression in chapter 7 is probably more complicated than you need. The explanation they have complicated examples, so it may be more difficult to understand. So we'll go over a website. We'll have a simpler case for explaining regular expression. After that, you can go over chapter 7 also to learn more about that, because it is a powerful tool. If you are capable using it, it will help you to do a lot of matching, string matching, and for input data verification. So it is a very nice function for you to know and for you to use if you are capable of doing that. But at least you should be able to understand and know how to read them when you see someone else code using it. That's more important. Okay, but as I said, it's not in your reading assignment, but you should read about chapter 7 also after you learn more about regular expression today. Okay, then on chapter 8 we'll talk about next week. Okay, how to handle events. Okay, but this week we'll focus on the forms handling and regular expression. Just an introduction of regular expression. Okay, that's our plan. So please read the book and try to understand the example, particularly on chapter 6. I think they did pretty well. Step-by-step explanation of the example and showing your features, how to get to the forms and modify them as needed. Okay, so that's for the book for your study. So let's go back to the module. These two are not available to you, so don't worry about that, only the green ones. So today we are going to talk about JavaScript forms. Okay, as I said before, there's no lecture for this particular material. We're going to go to internet. The link is provided here. Okay, so we are going to talk about how to reference and extract data from the field in the form. Okay, then you create the calculated fields, understand how to validate, and the client side, only the client side validation. We'll talk a little bit about the server side, but mainly just the client side, because the JavaScript only run on the Java side, and interactively validate the input data before it's sent to the server using the submit button. We'll talk a little bit about that. So that's our plan. Okay, so you click on that, that's the external website, but let me change the font size so we can see that. Okay, before we move on to explain this, let me double check on the camera since no one is on the conference. Oh, Shane, good morning, he's there. Shane is on. Okay, that's good. But the camera and the speakers are both working, so, and let's go back to the form and the external website. Let me double check on the YouTube recording The YouTube recording is also working. That's good. So as I said earlier, we are focusing on the forms. And then here are some websites we recommended. And there's some example. I think the example is quite simple and straightforward. And in fact, you can use the example and play with it in Eclipse if you wanted to see how they handle the forms. Okay. The purpose, they also have the same issue, is about CGI scripts. Okay, that's on the server side, but since this focusing on JavaScript, so we are not going to talk about the server side verification. Basically, you can do verification of data, process the input data on JavaScript or on the CGI script or program on the server side. But as we know, as much as possible, you want to do it on your client side because it's more interactive. You don't have to wait for the server, and also reduce the burden on the server to process the data and return the data back to the user in case there are errors. So we just don't want to do that. The time is more time consuming, resources consuming. So using JavaScript is more direct and much better. However, there are some times that the JavaScript may not catch the problem. So to protect your data on the server side, you still want the CGI to check always. So you want to check twice just to be sure. So if you are working on the server side program, you should still validate the data. Okay, possibility is everything is good, but however, if there is a minor mistake that your JavaScript did not catch, at least you can prompt back to the user to ask them to re-enter the data rather than causing a problem on your data integrity. So it's always good to validate data whenever before you process them. Okay, so it become, and it's always there, and it's more reliable in a sense because it's not related to the browser at all. So it's more reliable and independent of what the browser does. As you know, some of the browser do not take some of the HTML5 properly, or they may not support JavaScript. They are the older version, and so it will not be 100%, in some cases. So it would be nice to have a second check on the server side to do that. So that's the best practice. Okay, but we are not going to talk about the CGI checking in this class. So we're focusing on the front end. Okay. So first, on a form, we all know a form, you have the data to be captured, and then you will have a submit button for the user to click. Once they do, then you start to process them. Usually we use it on the event of onSubmit, and since we are using JavaScript, we would like to run some kind of a check, and you return a status. Okay, there's the common way, a general way of how to use it. So if everything is checked, it will send the data, okay, to the server side. And if there's a script, like a Perl script or something, any CGI program over on the server side, and it will process the data that you submit over the internet to the server or the network. Okay, so basically this is a simple case. We just do a check script. When they hit the button on submit, we will run a script called check script just to validate the input data. Okay, so please make sure you read these statements. If the script return, it will return either true or false. We'll look at that. If it's false, okay, then the form will not be submitted to the server. That means the something.perl will not be running. It will not be sent to the server at all if the return is false. Only return is true. Then the actual submit will go to the server side. The CGI will take over and process it. Okay. So in this case, the check script itself may return either true or false. But either way, the script will stop. Okay, just normal, right? You just run the script and then it will stop. It's just a one function call. So either case, it will stop. But however, whether it will send to the server side, it depends whether the return value is true or false. Okay, that's the general way of using it. So of course, for checking, in general, you want to check whether something is it the thing that you want. If it's not, then you do alert. Say, tell the user something is wrong. Or if another value is not right, then you tell them that there's another problem. And you always return false, because if there's a problem, you do not want to send it to the server to process. You want the user, and the common way or quick way is to do alert. Once you do, then it will stop and return false. The data will not be sent to the server. The user will re-enter, and then they hit submit. Okay, then you check it again, make sure everything is good. If everything is good, you do the if else conditional until everything is checked out. Then you say go ahead, return true. Once you return true, as we said, then it will trigger the action to send the data using different methods, post methods or others, to send it to the server side, and it will process based on the CGI that they have. Okay, that's the general way doing the form. So we are not going to talk about the action side, but we're going to talk about the on submit and the process of checking or validating the input data. Okay, let me double check whether anyone raised their hand. Okay, good. Things are still good. Be sure, yep, it's still good. Okay, so that's the general way of using the on submit on the form, and how the process works for checking your input and then validating and then trigger an action to the server. Okay. Now there are different ways of generating errors. Let's take a look on this first. The way we talked about on the previous page is to do an alert. Of course, now we have better way, because you could manipulate your HTML. So say if you didn't enter anything, I do a submit. Okay, you can actually have a script checking it and then display the error right on the form without a pop-up. So that's more common practice now, if you have the room to do that. Okay, so all you have to do is go over the form and validate it. Okay, we'll talk more about how to access the form later. Okay, then you go over. So there are quick way to send an error to the user immediately, depending on what input they provide. Okay, so please check it out and just click on the error message method. This is another way to do it. Of course, the quick way to do it is, as we said, using alert, a pop-up. Okay, we'll show that in this example. But another way to do it is go over and then look at the DOM, find the element, and output the data on the screen on the same page next to the form field, and then they get the information right there without the pop-up. Okay. So now let's talk about how to address to the elements, okay, on the form. First, if you want to do that, you can access to the document, the forms. We talk about DOM, briefly, since you should have learned DOM prior to this class. So basically, on a document, you have multiple forms, say, if you do, and then you can address to each of the form, find them, by using indexing. So this is the first form, starting 0, the first form. They're in that order that presented in the HTML. So you can find a particular form and the submit methods, okay, by doing this DOM structure, okay, or the reset, okay, or the action. So you can change the action, okay, dynamically if you needed to. Okay. So that's not our main focus. Our main focus is how to address to the elements. Okay, this is just showing you how you can do DOM to access the methods and actions. Okay, but the main focus we are talking about here is how to use DOM to accessing the form elements. Just like the other way, we have to have the document starting the dot notation, and then the forms based on the number, the index, and then the elements. It depends, of course, whether you have multiple elements of the same type, and then using indexing, you can find it. So you can always locate an element on the form. As we said before, the first one is 0, and the second one is 1. Just remember that. Okay. So you can do the same thing to get to all data, text area, input, others. Okay. Now, however, you say it is so inconvenient to use indexing, particularly if you do have a multiple complex form with multiple forms and different various elements of the same type. Using indexing is just hard to find. So the other way, or better way, to do that is using name. If each of the elements have names, name, address, city, identified, okay, then you could find the element by using the name. Since the form name is personal, so from the document and the personal form, and I find the element name, I find the element address, and find the element city. So it's much intuitive to use names if you could, and make sure you use the good names, right? If you use item 1, item 2, item 3, there's no difference than using indexing, right? So it defeats the purpose. To use the name is to make sure it's meaningful, so when someone reads your program and look at the DOM, they understand it's from the document on a personal form, and there's an address field. So it's really straightforward on a hierarchical tree to look down into the elements that you have in that particular form, and so it will not be missed if they identify them by the name. Okay, so this is a very handy way to identify them in the DOM without using indexing, which is harder to keep track of. Okay, so that's the common way. You have a form, you have a name, you have the action for the server side, and on submit, you do a check or whatever you need to do on the JavaScript. Okay, first of course you validate them, or you have to do some calculation if you wanted to. So whatever you need to do using the JavaScript, you put it here. Once you have it, they hit the submit button, trigger your script, and then you can address to the element, okay, and getting the values out of those elements by using the DOM way, dot notation. Okay, so as they said here, the advantage of using names is, of course, easy to access to, and also even you move things around, it's not going to cause you any problem. It's by name, because in case you move these two around, these three, in a different order, then you have to change your indexing, the number, according to the orders when they present in HTML. So it is harder to modify your code. So using name will not have that problem because you identify them by their particular name. So it doesn't matter where they were placed. So it is much easier that way than using the indexing like that. Okay, it's much easier to read instead of document form 0 element whatever, a number, you have actually a more meaningful name for that particular field. So it is a much better way to do that if you could. Okay. Of course, then after you know how to address to the field, you have to determine the value and also be able to modify them. Now, that we don't have to talk about here. The most important is we know how to address to them, right? Once you do how to find them on the form, doesn't matter using indexing or name, then all you have to do is using assignment, changing the value of those fields. So they do show you different ways of doing text area. Okay, so for example, find the elements, document form, okay, whatever, personal text field, you only one, then the value, then assign it to something, okay, or assign a new value to it. So I'll show you some simple examples how to do that. Select boxes, okay, different fields. Okay, so check them up, even radio buttons, and learn how do they do that. Okay, let's go back up to the examples. So we have talked so much about it. Let's take a look on it. This is the example of they have. Say normally, just type something. Don't use my own name, huh? Try not to use my name in the internet. Because my mouse tool. That's blue whale. And you submit the form. That's what this program does. Okay. Once you submit, then it will display that into that text window. Okay. So in case we type something, we don't have anything, and then we submit or just reset, and then we do a submit. Then it will pop up. You haven't filled in name. Okay, that's the example they show us using alert to tell the user something was wrong. Okay, so that's it. The code was there to show you. Checking the field, the code is here. This is, it didn't check all the cases, but it just checked one element or a field. Actually, they did check few elements. Okay, they check all four fields. Okay. And if they didn't enter anything, so the value is blank or null, then you output saying they haven't included. Now, if you're not familiar with the backslash, that's for special character, a single quote. Because as you know, single quote, double quote are special character for the language, for quoting character or string. So if you really want a apostrophe on your statement, then you have to use backslash apostrophe. Then you will display, just like the example we show you, it will display haven't. Okay, so instead treating it as a quote. Okay, so just remember, you know that. I hope you know that. Okay, so that's what it does. Just like the generic example they gave us. When you do a check script, you verify it. Whatever elements on the form, you can use indexing, or you can use, in this case, because they only have 4 elements in here, they want to validate all those 4. Okay, so you, instead of using each of them, you can use a quick way, since you can do a loop. So you can do the elements and check whether they fill in those text fields. Okay, so if any of them is empty, then you prompt them. Okay, straightforward. Okay, of course, try to look at 0 to 3, so 4 elements there. Okay, so this is a good way of using indexing for programming purpose. Okay, if for individual elements, I think you're rather using the names instead, right? But for programming purpose, since you are using a loop, it's much quicker. Instead of line by line checking each of them by name, you can use a loop by the index, and then you can loop through them quickly. So a simple loop. So it depends on the situation. Okay, but this particular case, to simplify your program, you could use a loop to address to each of the element and checking whether the value is empty, and then alert them according to, you know, what the name is for that particular field. Okay, of course, then after that you refocus on that so they can re-enter the information, and you return false such that you will not send it to the server side. Okay, and if everything is good, then you return true. Then it will trigger the CGI action to fill up the form, the text area, with the information they enter. Okay, so that's the example. Pretty straightforward and simple. Okay, so please go to this in the module, click on the link, go to this particular website, understanding what they're talking about, just 1 page, 2 page description, and then look at the example, and to understand what they try to accomplish, how to access 2 things we have learned here. Since form is a common user interface mechanism we use on the internet, so we are seeing how we can address or access to the elements on the form, and how we can process the data, validating them before those data are sent on the server side to the server side to validate using the CGI. So that's the best practice and common practice nowadays. So this is the way to access to individual items, either by names or by the index, and then check on the values that you have learned before. So all you have learned new here is how to access to the data on the form, and going through the on-submit events to verify them, to validate them before you process them. Okay, so please understand that mechanism on this page. Of course, the same thing is explained in the book using the book example, but I think this example is quite simple and straightforward. And the book has more, as I said, a little bit more than you need to learn now, but it is good to learn more if you have the time. And but the minimum, you come to this website and understand how we do that. And this is the simplest case, basically, to show you how to access to the form, and also how to verify, validate individual items, like the one I think at the end, they actually, right, what's the end? Yeah, they also have different examples on text field, text area, and boxes, check boxes, radio buttons. So if you need to work on those, please look up this area and look at those particular section and the example, how they handle each individual cases, like text area and text fields. Okay, so this is a pretty good site to do that. And please also read the book to follow along the more complex examples they gave you. And but I would recommend you read this first before you read the book. I think that will be easier. Okay, or unless of course you already know this, then you can just go ahead and read the book example also to review and to try to remember what you have known before. Okay, so that's the form and how to access to it. Okay, how to validate it. Let's go to the next one. Before we do, we want to make sure everything's still working. Yes. The camera is working. Speaker is blinking. Okay, and then I'll double check on the, and YouTube seems to be working too, so we are still good. And Shane is still there. Good. Okay, let's move on. Okay, now next we have looked at the JavaScript and how to handle the form, how to access data and modify them if you need to, and validate them for sure, and also how to output two-way, at least two-way to output, common practice wise, output error to the user. Either you do a alert pop-up, tell them something is wrong, ask them to re-enter the data, or just next to the field that they enter, you go to the DOM, find the element that they enter incorrect data, and then send them an error message right next to the field. And so they can just refocus and the field, so they can go ahead and re-enter that particular field. I think that's the common practice in most of the complicated form, because sometimes when you just pop up, then they may not know which field has error. So it would be nice to go to that particular field and prompt them, say that particular field has an error, and highlight it in different color, and ask them to re-enter that data. I think that's the common practice right now in the internet. Okay, next we'll visit another website. Okay, we'll continue looking at the forms, but we'll learn a little bit more about regular expressions. Okay, then we'll look at the string. Regular expression is very handy to manipulate the string, okay, do pattern matching, okay, and how to define it, the regular expression. Okay, let's go to that website. Let's change that. Oops. Yeah, you know, when you go to an external website, you always have that. But let's change the font size, make it bigger so you can see better. Okay. So, this is another website, and I don't know why and how they choose that, but this is good. I think they have evaluated some other website and find out this tutorial actually is pretty good to use. And I do see that because compared to the book, as I said, the chapter 7 in the book also talk about regular expression, but the example they use is more complex. It's a combination of multiple things together, so it is more difficult to understand. So that's why they didn't recommend chapter 7 as a reading assignment. Okay, as you can see, our reading assignment is on chapter 6, we just talked about, and then chapter 8 for next week. So they didn't assign chapter 7 as a reading assignment, which is exactly the topic we're going to talk about, the forms and the regular expression. But if you're interested, please go do read it. However, as I said before, the example they use, the regular expression they use are more complicated, and you probably don't need to learn as much. Okay, that's why it may be harder for you to understand this compared to the website we're going to look at. Okay, the website we're going to look at, we'll look at one item at a time, so much easier. Instead, here they mix up a lot of different options. Okay, so it's really hard to understand or follow if you have no experience on regular expression before. But however, once you do, please read chapter 7, okay, to have better understanding of regular expression. Let's go back to this website. As I said, please make sure you follow the link in the module, and it will guide you to this particular website. Okay. So what's regular expression? It's basically mainly for pattern matching. Okay, it mentioned earlier here in Perl and Unix shell programming, people use regular expression a lot. Okay, it does help for manipulating strings. Okay, so it's a much quicker way. Of course, you can write a program, do a string compare, extract the strings, and things like that to do. But somehow, Unix has a way using regular expression to match strings. And a much simpler way, but it's really cryptic. It's hard to read. Okay, I'm not very good at that. At least I can read it. I think that's what at least you're shooting for. The basic thing we could use, right? And then the complicated thing, at least you understand, or you look at the book, compare what they're using, and then you understand what they're trying to accomplish. That's more important. Okay, even though you are not very capable using it, like the case I am, at least you need to know how to read it when you're reading someone else's code. Of course, you should be able to use it by looking at some of the syntax when you need it to. Okay, that's more important. So don't be frustrated if you don't know how to master this, because it takes time. Okay. So the two ways to do it, one is using a literal, a constant. So basically define a regular expression, whatever that is, using just a variable, regular expression, say pattern. Okay, whatever pattern, we'll look into that pattern. Or you can actually, using the regular expression constructor to construct it by giving it a pattern. The good thing about doing this is you don't need to know it ahead of time, right? Here is a constant. So in your JavaScript program, you basically put a pattern, a constant in there. But if you're using a constructor, that means it's dynamically construct during runtime. So you can have a string variable here to set up the pattern dynamically if you don't know ahead of time. So that's the beauty of that, using the constructor. Okay. Now let's look at some. So say in your script, you have to check postal. Okay. So whether it have a 5-digit postal zip code, which is common, right? When you have a text box asking the user to enter their zip code, you want to make sure they enter 5 numbers only, right? So you can, of course, running a if else check on the number, right, from 0 to 99999, and make sure they enter 5 digits. Okay, to check it too. But there's a much simpler way if you know how to do regular expression. Okay, and also if they enter 0, you don't know there are 5 zeros or 1 0. So for doing an if else, it will be tougher to check that too. So you have to use a string instead, not value, to make sure they enter total of 5 digits. And then they don't go over 9999 or below 0000. Okay. But to do regular expression, on this case, we can do a 5-digit. You use a literal pattern. Those pattern has to be from a slash begin to a slash end. Okay. The beginning and end of a pattern is by a slash. Okay, on a regular, then you provide the pattern instead. Okay, so to do that, we say caret \d brace 5 and then $/. So if you don't know regular expression, you look at it and say, boy, what that is. But once you understand and knowing how it works, then it's not too bad. I still won't say it's good, but it's not too bad. So basically check. Okay, if you go over the description here, it actually explains quite well what it means, single character at a time. Okay, so basically just say this works. Okay, just assuming this works. You know it's a pattern, checking 5 digits. Once you have it, okay, then you go in and find the elements that you want to check and do a search using that pattern and see whether there's a match. If it's not a match, then it will be -1. That's the one returned by the search method. Okay. Otherwise, if it's equal to 1, that means an error. then you output and ask them to input 5-digit number inside this form. Okay? So you do a check of that. If it's good, then it's okay. That means your checking is good. Okay? So you can use this particular small program and put this in your form and look at it, and it will work. Let's look at what that means. That's what we're going to learn here, what that means. Okay? So to construct this regular expression, we have to use some special characters. A caret indicate the beginning of the string. That means from the beginning of the string you want to check something. And then dollar means the end of the string. Okay? So at the beginning of the string, now of course the slash is for the beginning, the encapsulation of the pattern, both slash. Okay? In between this, you say look at from the beginning of the string and then backslash D. Okay? Whenever you do a backslash, that means the next character is a special case. It's not a D, it's not a single character, it means something else. So backslash D means digit, a digit character. Okay? A digit character from 0 to 9. And then you use a brace to enclose 5. That means there are 5 consecutive digits. 5 consecutive digits. Okay, so you do it again, you look at it, you say you started from the first character of the string, you are looking for digits, 5 consecutive digits. 5 consecutive digits. And that's it to the end. Okay? So basically that's the statement. You start the beginning of the string, it must be nothing other than 5 digits, because it's from the beginning to the end, and you're looking for 5 digits. That's it, nothing else. No wildcard, no other substitution. 5 digits only. That's the zip code. So you look at it, one single, like what, 6, 7 character, and you can describe this pattern. Okay, without doing if else and checking the string for 0000 and then to 9999 or things like that. It's really easy and handy and quick, as long as you know how to use them. But in this particular case, quite simple. At the beginning till the end, you're looking for 5 digits, and that's it. Okay, exactly what the zip code is. So make this regular expression very useful, right? So, but imagine you go ahead and do the same thing. Okay, use your programming skill, do the same thing to do this 5-digit checking using your JavaScript or any other programming language that you have learned, and try to do the same thing. See how many lines of code you can do that. And then you will be impressed. You will be impressed by this simple pattern matching capability, which is called regular expression. Okay? Now, as I said, if you don't know them, they are really hard to read, very cryptic. But once you know, at least know how to read it, then it's not too bad. You just have to get used to that. Okay? Okay. Now the book has more complicated example. Like this case, we can type in, and it will say not 5 digit. Okay. So just like what we're saying, you must. Okay. Okay. So just by using that, we can match the data very quickly. Okay. By phone number, we can do the same thing, right? Okay. So please make sure you understand what it is. Then we'll look at some other categories. There are more ways to do the pattern matching. The positioning, special literal characters matching, okay, like character return, \r, and \n for new line. Those characters exist in the ASCII table, so you can find the actual ASCII code for \n, new line, and also \r. Okay, so the backslash is just meaning a special character. Okay, this is the Unix and the Perl way. Whenever you use a backslash, it means the next character is a special designated character, not the regular N or R or D digit like we have last time. So if you want to check a range of things, for example, or individual ones, like this case, you want to match A, B, and C, A, B, or C, okay? Then you use the square bracket, okay? That means you will match any character A, B, or C, or you can match a range. If we match A to Z, capital A to Z, and 0 to 9, that means any alphabetical value will match. Okay, capital, lowercase, or number, but it will not match any special characters, right? Because it didn't say so. It says from A to Z lowercase, A to Z uppercase, and the numbers. So any alphanumerical values will be matching. You can also do a repetition matching. Okay. So you want to match 3 5s, and you can do that. And same thing, you use the brace to indicate how many times, just like previously, right? We say 5 on the digit matching on the zip code. Here we say match 5, number 5, and match it 3 times. Repetition. Okay. So pretty handy. Some of the things you need to know. We already seen the caret only match at the beginning, from the beginning, and the end using a $, and the \B, something new. It's called boundary. Okay, it's a boundary. So they give you good examples, like in case you want to match ly and \B. That means it has to be the beginning or the end of the word is the boundary. So in this case, it will match. Okay. But in this case, when you say capital B, that is not the word boundary. This case is a word boundary, then you find this. But this case is not a word boundary. So that means it will not find this. It will not match. Same thing here. Okay. You want to match OR, then you find it in this. But it will not match this one because it's at the beginning of the word. Okay, that's what the lowercase and uppercase B are for, the word boundary. Okay, of course there are more, a long list of them. Something for you to learn and try. There are many more cases or combination of the cases. Now, good thing about this, as I said before, it gives you individual cases and examples, pretty good examples like this. Matching A, B, and C like this. If you want to match A or N and then B and C, that means it will match ABC or NBC, but it will not match BBC. Okay, makes sense, right? It will match A or N but nothing else, then BBC is not one of it, so it will not be a match. You can match a range A to Z, 0 to 9, with the square brace, that means one of those, using OR almost. Okay, or use the caret within the square brace, then it's the opposite. That means if it's not A or not N, and then BC, that means ABC and NBC will not match because they are A and N to start with. But BBC will match because it's not A or N. So it's just the opposite of the other. Now you see the caret, the two meanings of it. If it's outside the square bracket, that means the beginning of the string, right? But if it's inside the square bracket, then it means opposite. It's not A or N. Okay? So be careful with it. Where you read the character. Okay? So there are two meanings of it. Okay? So there are more different ways of doing pattern matching. So very useful. A lot of them, I would say. So if you're interested, go through some of them. At least you understand what they mean. That doesn't mean you need to use them. At least each of the topic, go over them and understand, oh, that's how you match repetition, which we look at a couple of them already. So learn different syntax, how do you do, repetition matching. And then learn about how you match special characters, single characters, a range of characters. Okay? And that's what you need to know on regular expression. So it looks complicated really because of its syntax. If you know Unix, you know syntax is the worst of all. And that's why a lot of people hesitate to use Unix, particularly on the command line, because it's very cryptic. And this regular expression comes from Unix. That's why it is quite cryptic and it's hard to read if you're not familiar with them. To the minimum, you need to how to read them and use the simple case. How to match numbers, right? That's very important. How to match numbers, how to match some specific pattern. Okay, like finding an @ sign for an email address. Okay, and finding .com, the email address. Things like that. At least you know how to do, and also how to read other people's code when they use regular expression for pattern matching on strings. But as you see here, by using some symbolic method, you can actually do pattern matching quite easy and manipulate the string quite easy. Okay? And Shane already know, he can show you how to actually replace some of the strings, okay, by using pattern matching. So it is a very handy tool instead of using string, matching the string yourself and replacing them by yourself in the program. So it's just almost like a short way, okay, to do that. But if you can master it, it will save you a lot of time doing the programming itself. Okay, so that's pattern matching. As I said before, in the book, there are more complicated examples. So once you read this first, please read this first. Just like previously on the form, read the website example first. Make sure you understand them before you read the book. I think it will be more helpful because the book is good. It gives you step-by-step explanation of the form, how to access them, and also step-by-step explanation in chapter 7 on how to do pattern matching using regular expression. But the cases they use are more complicated than you need to learn. So maybe harder to follow. So if you read these two websites first to understand what it is and how to do that, then you read the book, it will be a lot easier to understand. That's my recommendation. Okay. But if you already have prior knowledge of those topics, then yeah, go ahead and read the book, and then those examples should be easy for you then. Okay. Let me see. That's what we need to talk about today for chapter 6 and kind of chapter 7 on regular expression. Okay. The next week we will cover chapter 8 on event handling. Okay. We will also look at another website, I think, to look at event handling also. Okay. That's all the lecture for today. However, we will, or someone walk in, so, but we do have the second part of the lecture today is to look at the assignment. Which one was it? Assignment, we look at assignment 3.1, the temperature conversion, which is due today already. So we are going to look at the next assignment, 3.2, day and time, okay, manipulation. So had nothing to do with the form or the pattern matching on regular expression, okay? So it's not quite in sync, but yet, this is part of what you have learned, the date object. So we'll have assignment for you to learn how to manipulate it and display it, okay? So we'll talk about that after we take a break, okay? Let me go back to Shane, okay? Let's see, any question? Okay, everything is good. Let me keep it in the full screen mode. I think we'll be okay. And then we'll take a few minutes break before we go on to the next topic. The next session to look at the assignment. Okay, let's take about 5 minutes break. Okay, let's go back to, okay, let's do a 5 minutes break. Okay, I'm back. Let's go back to. Okay, thanks Shane. I think everything is still working. We're in the full screen mode. Make sure the speaker and the cameras are both good. We are looking at the YouTube recording and it looks still good, so I think we're okay. Okay, here we go. Recording looks good. Camera looks good. Full screen mode good. As I said, last time we have looked at assignment 3.1. Okay, the temperature conversion. So basically what we're looking for is to have a text field in there for Fahrenheit, and then you key in the Fahrenheit value, and then you can do the calculate. You capture the data and then you can calculate, and then getting the degree in Celsius and Kelvin. Okay, and my challenge to you is you can enter a Celsius and convert to the others. You can enter Kelvin and convert to the others too also. So not just a one way. Here the requirement is to enter Fahrenheit, then you calculate Celsius and Kelvin. But I think it's very easy for you to do is reverse that too. When you hit the reverse button and do a check what field they have entered, and then convert it to other two as needed. So please do that. And they give you a simple program, so you could use it and learn how to do that. Okay, or write your own. So that's what it is last time. If you haven't submitted, please do that by end of today. Okay, so today we are going to look at the next one, which is due this Sunday. Now, interesting enough, this particular one actually gives you an example. I believe I didn't take it out. I believe it was written by one of a student in the previous class or whatever last time they offer this class. So some student already wrote a program, okay, for the JavaScript to use. I left it there because it's something everyone can learn from each other, right? And also this is a particular short class. There are multiple assignments coming up, just like we have on today, and then the next one on the 16th. So even though it is a complete solution on the JavaScript, but it doesn't have the HTML to work with it, so you still have to figure it out. That means you have to understand what this program does. Okay, even the program is given to you, you still have to understand what this program does, and then write a HTML to match it in order to make it work. So I think it's okay. So give you a break, give you some, or if you want to write your own, because I think the program itself is more complicated than is needed. But this person did a good job, doing a lot in the program. So give the person the credit. But for you, you do not have to do that much to match this assignment's requirement. So all we are asking for you to do is get the current time. You bring up a page, okay, get the current time, okay, and then output some interesting information about the time you're at. Say if it's in the morning, you say good morning. If it's afternoon, you say afternoon. If you're past 6 p.m., you say good evening, something like that. And the requirement is to have 2 messages. That's it, 2 messages. Okay, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever. Depends on the time, okay, or the day of the week, whatever you need to. Okay, so basically the purpose is to learn how to use the day object and then evaluate the data that you capture from the day methods and use the if-else statement to print out at least 2 different messages, depends on the condition. That's all required. They also ask you to read chapter 11 if you want examples. Okay, so you could do that. Read chapter 11. but it's just a simple case. But this particular student creates something more than is needed, I believe. So you don't have to do it the same way. But I think it's a good example for me to explain how to do that, because we are more into JavaScript program, and this person is very good at that. And so we want to take a look on this program, and we use it as a vehicle to explain how to do that. But for you, you're welcome to use it. I don't have problem doing that. Reusing people's code is normal now, as long as you have the right to not steal other people's code. But if you have the right to use other people's code, please do that. Save time. So you're welcome to use this particular program if you wanted to. Okay, that's what I'm using now to show you. So you're welcome to use it, but you do have to create your HTML file to match it to submit your homework assignment. Okay, so do not just give me this code. You need to give me the HTML file, the whole project from Eclipse. Okay, so let's take a look on that program. So everything's still working. Good. And I'll make sure this is still working. Good. Now we'll go to Eclipse. Okay, so this is exactly what the program is. Okay, you can see there are many, well, not many, there are quite a few functions created. Okay, and nicely commented. So one thing I want you to do, start doing more, is commenting your functions. Even though your name used for the function could be very descriptive, but yet it is much better to have at least a single line before each function to describe what it does. So when someone read it, and they can easily see what this means without even looking at the detail. Okay? And from the right side, from the Eclipse, you already see, you do a diagnostic of what you have in this JavaScript. You find so many, probably 20 some functions. Okay, so quite a few. Or not just functions. Some of them are, about 15 functions, but about another 10 to 15 variables, data. Okay, it's all listed here. Okay, so if you look at this, quite simple. The highest function is shown here. Of course, there are many global variables to keep track of the day, time, years, hour, minutes. Okay, makes sense. Yeah. Sometimes you don't want to pass. You can pass the value along by calling the function with the value, but sometimes it's easier, handy. If it's a single JavaScript, you keep the variable as global, so each of them can access to them and update them accordingly. So basically, the first thing you want to do is say display. Now before we do, let's take a look on the output first. I think it's easy to understand. That's the requirement. To output the day and time, okay, in the year on the HTML, and based on the time or whatever, based on the information on the time and date, you output a message. Like this case, we are still in the morning, then say good morning, I hope your day goes well. So basically you have to have at least two messages described in your script, and it will output one of them. Depends on the condition of the time date condition. Okay, so the if else is needed. That's what it is. That's all the requirement for this assignment. So it's not too complicated. Okay, so you don't have to make it don't have to break it down to many functions. Okay, you can actually combine some of them, make it easier for you. Okay, so it's up to you, but you can do the same thing just like this student did. Okay, or just reuse this program. Now that's the beauty of reuse, because if you understand a document, the program well, people can just use it, just like I did. I create an HTML. Didn't show you what it is. So I create HTML, basic HTML. I include this. I rename it a little bit. Daytime. Same script, basically same script. Change a little bit. I think add one line in there, but I'm not gonna tell you what it is. Add one line in there, and then make it works for this. And then I create a body. I hide it. It's a simple body, okay? And to use this script. So that's what I did. 5 minutes or so by someone who developed this for an hour or two. I spent 5 minutes, okay? Then I can use this person's program and display the output. That's the beauty of reuse. So please try that too. But of course, the purpose of this class is to write your own. So if you want to, you should write your own, but you can also try to reuse this particular one. It only takes a few minutes to do that. Okay. So let's explain what it does first. Okay. Now you have all the variables ready for each of the string, time string, date string, and comment string for output purpose. Now the first thing is to display. What do you need to display? You need to display the date. You need to display the time. Okay, so you call each function to do that. And then you also, once you get the string from those, now you can have return value from those, but instead this person used the global variable. When you do setting the date display, I think he or she actually I think it's he, even update the string, the date and time string. Once it's updated, then you find the element by ID and changing that, okay, into the current time and then the current date. That's what you see here. Okay. And after that, the requirement is to display comments. So you call a function comment display. So basically this is the main program. So it should run when you start the HTML page, and then it will set up the date and time, and then based on that you set up a string and also output a comment for that particular date time. Okay. So now look at each of them. So for setting up the date string, it calls multiple functions, so nested. So first, the main program to display, you set up the date. To set up the date, you do day of the week, the month, the date, and the year. After you get all the strings set up, then you combine them into a single string called date string. That's all it does. So basically, it's a formatting of the date string by individual components, but each of the components, he actually call another function to do that. Now you don't have to, as I said, you can make it all combine in the same one, but we'll see why he does that. Okay. The time, same thing. On the time setup, you also need to get the hour, get the minute, second, AM, PM. After you have it, then make the time string into it is whatever hour, minute, seconds, and AM or PM. Okay, that's what is being displayed. Okay, so in the time string, it is the hour, AM, PM, and then the date string. Okay, that's what it does. The comment field, same thing. Try to make up the comment first. Determine what comment is needed. Once you do, then it will change the comment field by using whatever comments you're going to use. So let's look at the comment first. Once you have the date and time, you will check whether it's a PM Okay, so if it's late, then it will output a message like that and save it into the comment. So we put into the comment field for display purpose. So you do a if else cases, multiple cases, to determine what kind of message you want to display. So just a if else cases, and checking the range in the condition, the time. Okay, whether it's before 5 a.m. or so. Okay, and then you can make comments accordingly, and depends on AM or PM. Okay, so that's what it does. So a good conditional check with all those logical and or. Okay, for instance, first to check different range, different time, AM or PM, and output different messages. So this person did very well doing that, and as I said, it has a lot more than you needed. You only need 2 messages, maybe just check AM, PM, then output morning or afternoon. That's just all enough for you if you write your own, or reuse this if you wanted to, but make sure you understand it first before you do. Okay, otherwise there's no comment. If everything else fell through, then there's no comment. Okay? Then individual function like make hours, make minutes, those. The reason is, first look at how he got it. Basically, he used the date constructor. Remember, we looked at the date objects a couple of weeks ago in one of the lecture. We used the date object constructor to get the current date. By default, is the current date. And using the method get hour, you get the current hour. Say for now is like 10. Okay, so we'll make use of the modulo of 12. So you use a 12-hour clock instead of 24. Okay, so also in a special case, if it's 0, then you set it 12. So that's the reason he don't want to make the time setting too complicated, because each of the case he want to have special case. He want to have make sure 2 digits instead of 1 in case. So we always have 2 digits. Okay, so he did more than is needed for the assignment at least, but he did very well. So we do all these special cases also for each of the hour, minutes, and seconds. So also make sure it's 2 digits. Okay, so he just do extra work and very good job. And then of course checking the AM, PM, same thing. You get the hours, then you determine whether it's greater than or less than 12. It's AM, otherwise PM. Okay. And day of the week, a bit more complicated. If you remember, when we look at the day object, things start from 0. So using a switch statement is good because you have 7 cases, and each of them are discrete cases, a number. So using a switch statement is natural for this case. You can use if statements, if else also, but using a case statement, switch statement here is a perfect selection for this particular condition. So if the case 0, remember when you do a get date from the date object method, it will return 0 to 6, which is Sunday to Saturday. 0 to 6. That's all the cases. There's no other cases. Get date will only return 0 to 6, and that will match your day. So he just put that into the date of week string using the actual name instead of the number, so you can display them properly. Okay, so nice. The month, same thing. You get month from the object, day object, but it also only return from 0 to 11 of December. So for that, you could use simply using a switch case statement, and then set up the month string according to the value returned from get month. So pretty straightforward. Okay. So that's why he has separate functions, because it could be long if you don't do that on a single function. He also add on some special cases, as I said before. Make it 2 digits is on 1, so he very intelligent. And then so separate the functions, make it easier to read instead of everything jammed into a single big function. Okay. Also on the date. Okay. Nicely work. Also add on, you check the get date. You check the first day, second day, third day, fourth on by doing a switch statement like that. Okay. Very, very good. You're not required to do this part, but he did it and very nicely done. Okay. So it will be April the 13th. Okay, so all the case statement here. Okay, for special case for 3rd, special case except 13th, and special case for the ND, and special case for the ST. You did very well. So here all, but you don't, as I said, you don't have to do that. Okay, as long as you could get the date from the date function. Okay, you don't have to add on those. Okay, it's not a requirement. And the year, same thing. Get the year. Okay, it's a simple. You only like to use the get full year method from the day object, then you get the year. Okay, that's all. That's all he has. It's really good, well done. And as I said, he did a lot more than we asked you to do that. So you don't have to do that much. All you have to do is make sure you display your date and time properly in a readable format. Doesn't need to have the THR, RD and things like that, but it's a readable format, so I can know the date and time and AM PM time. Okay, and so I can read the day and time, and then you output based on the day and time. You output a message. And your program should have at least 2 different messages. Okay, and that's it. That's the requirement. I'll put any format you need it to, as long as I can read it when I run your HTML file. So that's all we need for this particular assignment. It's not very complicated, but this person did a good job, and so we are using it as a discussion for this class. So if you can learn something from this, please do. Read it and understand it and see how it works, how he organizes his work, okay, how he handles special cases, okay, to make it look nice, okay, make it more sophisticated. So we will display a much better format, like 2 digits for those instead of 1. If it's 0, 5 or 0, 1. So always 2 digits, always have that format. So it's just nice looking. Okay. So that's it for this assignment. The expectation is not as high as whatever we gave you here. But you're welcome to use this to play with it. You do have to have your own HTML file to include the JS to this particular JS, and modify the JS. I did add 1 line I think in here to make it work. So you need to do something on this JS file. I think add 1 line is enough. I won't tell you which one, and then it will work. As long as you have a matching HTML file to drive it. Okay. That's all for this Let's close this out. Let's make sure recording is still working. Let's go back to our and the speaker, and everything is good. Okay, so let's look at, so that's all for the assignment 3.2. Expectation, as I said, is quite simple. To get the current day and time displayed on the screen in the format that I can read. Don't just give me a big number on the time. You have to make it a daytime that people can read. And then output a message based on the day and time that you get. And you have to have at least two type of messages, two different messages in your program. The simplest one is AM and PM, right? If it's morning, then you output something. If it's PM, you output another. At least two messages. You decide what that is. Okay, make creative if you could. Okay, that's the minimum requirement for this particular assignment. The one that I show you have more than is needed. It's nice to learn, so please try to understand it. If you don't know how to do this program, try to understand it and learn something from it and write your own program you want, or go ahead and use this program as I said. Okay, let's see. So we are done with it. So from next week we will talk about the event handling, chapter 8. So please read ahead, chapter 8, event handling. Okay, we'll talk about it next week, and then we'll close out this semester. Talk about events and DOM events last. Then you have to finish up a few more assignments, and that's the end of the semester. So if you need to catch up now, please do, because there are quite a few things. I assume you are more sophisticated now doing your programming. So that's why you have 2 assignments each week. Okay, no final exam, but a few more assignments to close out this semester. So please do that as soon as possible. Okay. Let me see. Other than that, I think we are all good. I don't see anything else I need to cover today. But please make sure you follow the module link and come to these 2 websites. It's pretty easy to understand. An example they gave you is very nice, simple and straightforward. So please go through particularly the pattern matching using regular expression. I think this website is much easier to understand than the book. So please read this first if you are not familiar with regular expression. Okay? Read this page first before you, okay? The example they use is quite straightforward and simple. So please go do this first. Read this first. Follow the link in the module before you read the book. That will be helpful. Okay? With that said, I will conclude our I'll conclude our lecture today. Okay? If you have any question, send me email or post it in the discussion sessions forum, and then let everyone else look at and try to help you too. Okay? That's it. We'll end this class today. I will stop the recording now. Thanks for joining. Bye.
You are currently the only person in this conference.
Oops. Okay. I will also end the YouTube.